today or one.
Last time, 4 people. What the hell?
Yeah.
Big
It
difference.
was
47.
it was a weird juxtaposition after the call before that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think about that all the time. I think we might have even talked about this on one of our lives before, but like I've noticed that like the people that I've kind of like observed over the last 5 years of me being in business, like the people who have actually like stayed in the game and they seem to like actually be evolving with their business are always the people that like, yeah, they have money goals, but they have like bigger goals behind that. Like there's like specific things that they know they want to do. So like I just said, like one of mine is being able to like pay my sister full time to like, help us in the business and to be able to like take my family on vacation and be like, I'll pay. Like I literally fantasize about doing that shit. Like you said, Mike, like what would it be like to just have so much wealth that you can just abundantly give and not sweat like, oh, can I actually afford this? I've often wondered that. Like I remember watching the Joe Rogan podcast one time and he was talking about like when he got to that point in his life that like money just wasn't a huge like stressful factor anymore. He was just like, you kind of get to a point where like, oh, I'm good. And then it kind of really starts to feel like a game. You're like, this is just a game to me now. I've always thought about like what it would feel like to get to that point that you're like, I'm good. Money is not a limiting factor for me anymore.
Yeah. And then I wonder, once you're at that point, like what you have to do to kind of like stay motivated. It's like you need another challenge at that point, eh?
Yeah. I mean, I assume at that point, I guess it depends who you are, but like I think that's why like having some kind of motivation for impact is like really important to me. Like I want to do work that I feel like actually has an impact and like gives me meaning because I think there just has to be something pulling me other than like just the money. I think when I catch myself like going for things for the money, I don't like how I feel. I don't like the energy I have. So I think it's important to like want to do work that pulls you and to have like, people say know your why, like know your why behind the money.
Yeah, I think having a purpose definitely helps. I feel like I've also seen people that make a lot of money that don't necessarily seem happy. So deep down inside, I know that money doesn't. I think it solves like once you have a place to sleep and eat and all that kind of stuff. Like you're all good, but at some sort of level, I think you guys are right. You kind of need to have like a purpose or a reason for doing what you're doing, and I think that will probably make it sustainable long term.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. For the longest time for me, it was like wanting to pay off my mom's mortgage. Like, yeah, you need something like that. Interestingly though, my mom's mortgage is now paid off, so I can't use that one as motivation. So
Amazing.
it wasn't me, unfortunately. It's a long story, but yeah. So, but I agree. You need, and if at any point that why goes away, you probably need to find a new one. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it kind of ties into like something that I often think about because I definitely have phases. Like I've had a couple times this month where like January in our business was one of our lowest months in a long time. And
Mm.
it felt like I was like, "Oh, I could totally like spiral over this." Like it feels like shitty, especially with us like building our house and stuff. I'm like, "Fuck, man, we can't afford to like have low months right now. Like we want this to be going up." So, I I think it's good to know where you want to be monetarily, but I think like I said before, like when I catch myself approaching the business from like a make money energy, it never serves me. It doesn't feel good. So when I catch myself doing that, I immediately just try to flip it and I'm like, okay, what if I just don't focus on money at all right now and just focus on like how can I actually help people this week? Like who could I reach out to for an interview because I honestly think that doing an interview would be really helpful for them because I see potential and I'm excited about what they're doing and I could ask good questions about it. And I have to like remind myself to do that sometimes. Like when you have a low month and you know that like, okay, our budget's tighter this month, how do I be conscious of that so that I'm not approaching people with that like money first energy? So
Yeah.
I always try to flip it. When I feel like I'm starting to think money first, I'm like, "Okay, stop, flip it. Just focus on helping people. Don't even think about money at all because when I focus on helping people, that's usually where like the opportunities come from and I know that money will just like find its way back to me somehow."
I think there's also something there about like follow up too, because I know that there's probably like 3 or 4 people that I need to follow up with that could possibly like make money on those follow-ups or whatever, so I think it's partly that, and then also if someone's not, like, closing, like, maybe getting on the call with them, like, I'm so guilty of just, like, sending, like, a DM or, like, a text or whatever, when sometimes I'm like, "Yo," like, I have this one guy in mind and he's kinda like I gave him some pricing, he kinda stalled, and I wanted to hit him back up and be like, "Hey, like, I know, like, something's off. Let's chat through this and see if we could work something out or whatever." So I think that, like, something like that too, I could easily spiral too and get, like, down on myself when shit's not, like, working, and sometimes it's just a little delayed, I feel like too, like, and, your mind could easily just fucking fuck you if, like, you let it. I've had to, like, really go on, like, long walks and, like, kinda, like, regulate my nervous system more lately just because like, yeah, at the end of the day, I know it'll all work out, but sometimes when you're going through the thick of it, it just feels a little scary for sure.
I think I'm just reminded of something. It kind of was, we kind of talked about it on the last live as well, where I said at a certain point, it just goes to show that like everything kind of works because Kelsey, you were talking about how like you like to kind of take this approach of like, I just want to have like, not the volume game, but like if I just talk to like two people today or one person, have like one meaning, meaningful conversation with somebody who I actually want to work with and actually want to interview, then like, I've done my job or I'm like moving in a good direction. And like that works. But then so does the guy who sends like 20 cold DMs per day and just plays the volume game, right? Or 50 cold DMs, right? Like even like the cold email spammer guys, like some of them have like, obviously it works. Some of them have 50K agencies, 100K per month agencies, right? So everything works. And like I thought about that again because I can think of some times where when I was having a lower month in my agency or something, that I would say to myself, all right, you gotta pick things back up again. And it was like it was motivated by money. So like it kind of goes to show that like everything does work because I can think of times where it was like almost exclusively motivated by money, but also knowing like that I have to help people in order to make money, but like it was motivated by my business being at a low, right?
Yeah.
Not that the other part of it isn't an important part of the equation. Like you can't, it wouldn't have worked, I'm sure, if I just wanted to extract money from people, but like the money was the main motivator. So it's like it different things work for different people, clearly. Like,
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of people probably shy away from talking about this because nobody really wants to put out content talking about how money hungry they are. So I feel
mm,
like
yeah,
when somebody, when somebody like is a service provider like we all are, and like you said, Jer, like if you're talking to somebody and it seems like they want what you provide and you can see yourself working with them and you're having that conversation and you give them, here's what the price is, here's what the investment is, and then they kind of stall and they're like in limbo and they seem like now they're kind of rocking on their heels and sometimes you feel like, I think I'm losing this person. You kind of have a choice at that point that you can like follow up with them and, almost kind of like I don't want to say chase them, but like you're still pursuing the conversation. Or you can kind of say like, okay, well, I'm just going to let this person go. I don't think they want it. And it's a interesting position when you're at that point that you're like, okay, the conversation was going good, but then I gave this person the price and now they seem like they're not really moving. it's like you kind of decide like, am I going to chase this person or am I going to let them go? And I think it's kind of a case by case thing, but I something that like a mentor told me once was she said, when you feel like you are really financially stressed, like if you do have a low month or you just find like your brain is just racking up all the costs of life lately and you feel really money tight, she recommended like don't do outreach when you feel like you're in
Mm.
that energy because
Mm.
other people will often pick up on that energy because you just communicate different when you're coming at it from a like money focused perspective because that's where a lot of people start to talk to people like transactions and not like people because there's like a sense of urgency to it. So that kind of made me think of what you were describing there, Jer, of having somebody kind of be in limbo after you give them the price because I think it can be really tempting in that moment to like chase that person a little bit and even go into like justification mode. And I think sometimes that can come off as like, I want to make the sale. But what do you guys think? Like, how do you handle that when, you're talking to somebody, they seem interested, but then you give them the price and all of a sudden they're like not really answering anymore?
I know this one guy I have in particular, he's like a founder of a SaaS company. And I know that he wants video already and that like he's looking for investment money. So I know that there's a reason for him to need video and want video. So my whole thing is I know it must have been something to do with the price. So on that particular one, like I quoted $1,500 for 6 videos, 4 month minimum, because I just didn't want to like just not that was probably I've been kind of flowing between 1,500 to like 2K, somewhere around those ranges. And he just didn't seem like he was like he didn't answer back right away, so I'm gonna try to get on a call with him, and I'm okay, like, negotiating a little, like, I'm not, like obviously, I wanna keep on trying to hit higher ticket shit, but at the end of the day, I'd rather have some money than no money, and I don't everyone's, like, different, I guess, depending on what they're gonna do. But I'm also like, if it's someone that I feel like they don't want it, I'll give them an out. I'll be like, hey, if like this doesn't work for you, just fucking let me know or whatever. I think that that's also I'm not like gonna like force someone into something that they don't need. And another thing that came up this week too, I thought that was interesting is I was using Claude to do outreach again, and Mike had the idea of like not screenshotting things, and that saved me a lot of credit. So thanks for that, Mike.
Oh,
But
no.
when I was doing the stuff, like I created flags for I told Claude to start pushing back on me for who I'm prospecting to. I'm like, if there's reasons for me not to reach out, tell me. And a couple things that I came to mind are like if the person doesn't have they're not posting or they're just posting updates, like just reposts, they don't have a point of view. It's like don't message them because they don't have anything to say. Or like if they don't have a budget because they're not like C-suite or they're not like a founder, don't message them. So like it's basically like I'm building a system where it's telling me in real time and pushing back on me like, oh, don't hit that person up. And it's working better because then the people that I do hit are gonna be easier, and it actually feels less draining because it doesn't feel like I'm just, like, blasting everyone, like, I'm, like, kinda going through a process and actually, like, on the actual pitch, I'm actually, like, mentioning a specific video. I'm like, "Hey, like, you just talked about this specific point of view. That's pretty dope. Why don't we record a video doing that?" Or whatever. And now I'm still kind of working out the process beyond that point to, like, figure out, like, the best way to, like, close those people after. But I also think that that DM thing is huge, like, the fact that, like, that I'm also gonna build something like that too for, like, whether or not an account is go or no go so that I don't waste my time trying to service someone that's a fucking nightmare. So that I'll record the call, I'll put that into Claude, and I'll create a project that basically says, analyze all this data, the green flags, the red flags. Is this a go or no? So that's going to save me time there. So I'm building systems in every place that I can that makes it so that when I onboard someone, they're more likely to stay on longer. But then also like, so I think that's also a very good use of AI for me at the moment because it's just like doing it for what it's good at.
Mhm.
So when I was trying to do at one point, like, see, I was the guy trying to do like 20 cold outreach per day for a bit there.
Sure.
And I was experimenting with trying to use AI for it because, especially when I was trying to send like 20, but also have them be personalized, right? And that's time consuming. So I would like basically I scrape information from their LinkedIn profile, right? Their about section, their bio, their company about section and bio, all this, right? And like enter it into. I started using like ChatGPT in the beginning to do it, and then I started using Claude. Now I noticed that Claude was like way better at it. Um, but I also observed exactly what you're talking about, where Claude also had a much better ability to decipher as to when it was maybe worth walking away from a prospect. And it would be like, no, you don't need to waste your time with this guy. Like, there's no interest there. He's answering with one word. He's answered with like one word 2 times. It's like, you've got like 15 other prospects you could be messaging right now, you know? Claude was really good at that. And I liked it for being more like, better at making a decision, more decisive. I liked it for being more decisive. Whereas ChatGPT just wanted to like string the thing along and just like keep talking, like no matter what, even when a conversation wasn't going anywhere. It's like I've said also, like they both are individual ones, but yeah, Claude. It's weird to say, but like, and I think I've heard other people say this as well. Claude does a little bit of a better job at thinking more like a human, you know, because people, after you, like, if somebody gives you like a word response a couple times, it's kind of like, all right, there's no interest here. I'm not just going to keep like trying to have this conversation. There's no interest, right? But also like the willingness to walk away often will shift the conversation. Like, I've even used that in back and forth dialogue in the DMs, where it's kind of like, hey, no worries if this isn't the right time or if this doesn't work for you, but just so you know, and it's like insert your pitch or insert the result that you've maybe gotten for like other founders. So no worries if it's not a fit, but it's kind of like you're exiting towards the door. And then a lot of the time at that point, they'll be like, wait. You've done what? Actually, okay, maybe that is interesting. Send me some more information, right? So sometimes that's what ropes them in, is the willingness to just like ease off the gas, right? Which, yeah,
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot in like even just doing sales calls. A lot of times, like if somebody's kind of in limbo, and I've made a habit of like towards the end of the month, I'll message the people that like actually did seem qualified, seem like a good fit, but are still like not moving forward. And I'll usually just tell them like, hey, just wanted to message you once more to let you know that after today, I'm going to close this chat because I'm guessing you've made your decision. We haven't heard from you. So I just wanted to say like it was cool getting to know you. If you have any questions, you can definitely let me know. But I just wanted to let you know I'm not going to be messaging you anymore after tomorrow. And I've had it happen numerous times where people will message me back that day and be like, "No, I wanna start." And it's interesting because,
yeah,
it like, you could do that, I guess, and I do it pretty regularly now, like, you could do it as, like, purely a sales tactic, but I kinda just saw it as, like, being straight up with these people to be like, "I'm not gonna keep following up with you because 'cause I'm getting the impression that you don't really wanna do this, and that's cool. So I just wanted to let you know this is where I'm at. I'm closing this chat after tomorrow. It was cool, like, getting to know you a bit." Um, I think it just goes back to what we've all talked about before of, like, just being willing to walk away and just knowing that, like, you're gonna keep moving regardless of what this person does. Like, my partner and I had somebody who we were talking with last week about doing, like, the whole interview system for her like, she wanted to do it for 4 months because we kinda had this whole thing planned out. And then she came back and was like, "I do really wanna do this, and I actually would like to do it for my other brand too," because she owns, like, an e-commerce product company, and she said, "But can we postpone starting till June?" And I was like, she had a bunch of reasons that kind of made sense to me, and I was like, "I'm down to do this with you in the future, we're definitely down to work with you, but to be totally honest with you, we're not gonna be offering it for the same investment that we are right now." And I don't know that the service exchange we were gonna do would be applicable at that point. So I kinda just said, like, "We're still gonna be around and we'll love to work with you, but, like, we're gonna keep moving, and if we are maxed out on clients come June, I can't guarantee it we're gonna be in the same position." So I think it's just, like, knowing that you're gonna keep moving regardless of what this person does, and that's kind of, I think, the best approach to take. So you're not, like, they don't feel like you're desperately chasing them, and you know for yourself that your business doesn't depend on this person giving you a yes.
Taylor was talking about something called an attraction offer. And I don't know, maybe it is something for all of us to think about. But if someone's not closing, maybe you just give them some sort of special like offer. Because he was
Mm.
saying that maybe it could be something to do with they don't trust us enough to spend the type of money that we're asking for. So maybe that other thing is like a smaller, like tripwire type thing where, like, I don't know, like you give them like a month's worth of videos for 25% off. And then it's like, all right, if you liked it, keep on going after that. I don't know. That could be a thing. I thought about trying that, see if it actually works.
Yeah, that could even be positioned as like you're doing something this month, right, as a special offer for people, right? And I mean, you could probably even address the fact of like you're offering it to like to new clients so that they can get a taste of what you're actually offering, right? Um, I don't think there's any harm in that. Addressing the elephant of the room of like in the room of like you don't know who I am yet. So yeah.
Yeah. I guess that would be like that would probably be kind of similar to like almost having like a downsell offer or something. Because that's why people do like a low ticket, a mid ticket, or and then a high ticket kind of thing. Or that's why like some coaching programs will have like a starter resource and then the coaching program, because sometimes people aren't fully ready to jump right into the full thing. But if you give them like a taste of what you do or a taste of what it's like to work with you, that can sometimes be enough to make them want to take the next step. I know Taylin mentioned that when I interviewed him last. Um, he said that like he would start putting out like kind of free resources on Substack, and then he had like his paid tier of Substack, I think, and he started getting people in there asking like, "Do you have a coaching program? Like, I would love to learn more from you." So sometimes people just need like a first step to take to kind of nurture them further.
We have a question in the comments. How much money are we talking about? And what do we get out of that?
I'm not sure what you're referring to, Chris. Can you s- specify what you're referring to exactly? Um,
You might be
yeah,
talking about like retainer cost.
for what though? For what offer?
I know. Yeah, which offer?
Yeah.
Jeremy's, yours, mine.
Maybe the Taylin's attraction offer.
How do you guys know who to like? Do you guys just keep like a short list of people that you know that are warm and might close? Like, how do you guys approach that part of it? Like, how do you know? Like, do you mark them or something? Like hot?
Well, I have like for LinkedIn DMs, I've used a tool called Condo,
Mhm.
which is good for like it's kind of like it's kind of like having a CRM in your LinkedIn DMs, like just because of the amount of like you can put labels on everything, you can set reminders and all of that. So and you can leave notes and all of that, right? So you I've used like a labeling system where it's kind of like level 1, level 2, level 3, and that means something in terms of like how we got talking. Like a level 3 was like completely cold. I reached out to them. Level 2, like there was some sort of engagement beforehand. Like maybe they sent me connection requests, but then I DM'd them. And level 1 would be like an inbound lead saying, "Hey, Mike, I'm interested in your services." Right. So that would tell you something about the way the conversation started. And then like your notes and some of the other labels that you create might tell you like where they are in the pipeline and where they are in terms of an interest level. Right. So yeah. And then there's also like just the kind of mentally, you kind of just know where different people are at. You know who like the hottest lead, the hottest prospect in your DMs is, and like the person who's like most likely to probably jump on a call next.
How often do you guys follow up? Because I read somewhere that you need to follow up more than you would think. Like it could be like 4 or 5 times. And I'm not that type of person usually. I think I usually will follow up maybe 2 times sometimes, depending on the person. So I think I'm probably leaving some money on the table there too.
I mean, by some people's standards, probably like the number that I remember learning in marketing was that like some people need up to 7 touches before they'll act. There's some people that will say more. There's some people that will say, no, you follow up as many times as it takes until they say no or tell you to fuck off. So that could be more than 7. But I don't know. It's like I feel like I'm not saying that this is like the right stance by any means because obviously I'm still experimenting and learning, but I think a lot of people find their own way of kind of systemizing prospecting, whether it's like I aim for a certain amount of conversations a week, or I aim for a certain amount of conversations a day, or I track follow ups. Like people can get really diligent with it, especially if you are doing a more of like a mass outreach approach where you're like, I cannot keep track of the amount of conversations I'm having, so I have to put it somewhere. I'm just not there. I feel like I probably don't prospect as much as some people would tell me to. Um, I mostly have conversations with people in the Substack DMs, in LinkedIn DMs, or sometimes people who reply to my newsletter. Um, I don't know. I mean, you guys know I'm kind of trying to go for more of like a quality over quantity approach and have like genuine connections, good conversations, doing free interviews with people, and just kind of hoping that if I take that approach, I don't need to do as much prospecting, but I probably could be smarter with it and like track things more. I just haven't been approaching it that way.
How many, like out of curiosity, like that sounded so salesy, but how many sales calls would you say you're doing per week, like on average?
Like for my interview offer,
Yeah, yeah.
mm,
I guess you have two
uh,
offers now, do you?
oh, I just didn't know if you meant the interview offer or like the sales calls that I do
Oh,
sometimes for that coaching program.
interview
Um,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. For the interview, I mean, I right now I'm doing like one interview a week that's free. And then in terms of like a sales call of like this person's considering coming on and doing this as a service, I would say like one a week right now.
Yeah.
So I could absolutely pick that up. And that's been something I've been working on lately. It's just like having more conversations. I see it as like just planting more seeds, like putting the offer out into the universe more, offering it to people. Because I think about like when I interviewed Darian Ray, I think you guys both know him on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I met him.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I
Yeah.
met him in Medellin, Colombia.
Oh,
Makes
nice.
sense. Goes down
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Still down
I
there.
think one of the pieces of advice he gave on our interview was like the best things that you could be doing if you're trying to grow your business is just have genuine conversations with people and make content about what you're doing and your offer. So that's how I'm approaching prospecting is like just have conversations every day with people that you'd want to work with or people that you just want to tell them like, hey, this is what I'm doing because you know that they're rooting for you. And then just put out content about the offer and just keep planting seeds. It's not a systemized approach. Some people will probably say I'm winging it too much, but that's just what I'm going with right now.
I've actually had to set aside less time for content lately, like doing notes and more for like prospecting. It's not fun for me by any means, but it's like the quickest way I feel like to get meetings. Like I have a meeting today with this guy that was a DM, cold DM, and it seems to be if I do it like daily, I could probably book like 3 to 5 meetings a week. So then at some point, I feel like after that's the point, you get enough sales conversations where you could start figuring out where the leaks are. Like, am I
Yeah.
like getting the wrong person? And then like, so I think that part of it's really weird because I don't get me wrong, I'd rather write content all day long and be creative and do fun shit. But at the same time, I'm like, this is like the part of the business I feel like where it's like the lowest hanging fruit. And I don't know how often or how long it'll be blue ocean for what we're doing this interview offer because we're doing something similar. Because like right now, there's a ton of ghostwriters, right? But there's not a whole lot of people that are talking about like we're just like your interview partner that makes it easy. We have like we're gonna have some sort of editorial say and like help you get the best out of like whatever it is that you're doing. So I also feel like to some sort of degree, my mind knows that that time period's like limited too. So I think that like in my mind, I'm like I want to like press the gas as fast as possible during this like time where I see that there's so much opportunity to build.
You are lucky though, in one main way that I see with your offer, and part of the reason why I think it has a bit of a moat around it that like ghostwriting kind of doesn't, is that I think a lot of people are scared of being on camera. So even like for you guys, even if the end result of the video with your client, even if it's mostly them in the short form video, because of things like what's the Riverside?
Yep.
Because of like Riverside, where you can just isolate it, where it's mostly only them, or only them if you chose that. Um, but still, I still think there's so many people who just wouldn't want to get on video. They're too shy for that, and the reason why they would choose something like ghostwriting is because they want to. The dream to them is to have a business that doesn't require them to be super social, doesn't require them to hop on interview calls necessarily. And some people set up their ghostwriting business where they don't have the interview call, and maybe it's just like Telegram voice clips or like WhatsApp voice clips with their client, right? And the whole thing is just done that way. Or they send them like a list of questions and the client just like answers those questions via voice clip without the interview call, right? So I think ghostwriting attracts some of the shy ones, but a service like yours, you got to be, a little more confident, outgoing, and you have to like the interview process and all that. So there's a bit of a moat because of that.
Yeah, I actually think that, I mean, maybe I'm just like naive for believing this, but I've had a couple other people that, like, as I've been talking about the offer, I've had a couple other people say this too, because I think that we actually are doing a really smart thing because in a way it goes against what a lot of ghostwriting offers are becoming. Because, like, more and more people are getting online, more and more people have businesses that they're representing online, and more people are getting other people to write shit for them. But a lot of people, like we've talked about, use AI to just handle everything, and they end up putting out a lot of, like, AI content slop. And there's a lot of people who take the approach to social content of, like, reading scripts or copying trends or copying what other people are doing. And it can work, like, those things can all work, but I think there's a lot of people that don't make time to make content for their business because they don't wanna do that. They don't wanna put out stuff that's not authentic to them. They don't wanna read a script on video and feel like they're being awkward. They don't wanna see posts on their profile that they put out that they don't feel even sound like them. And I think that's the direction that a lot of, not all ghostwriting, but a lot of, like, mediocre ghostwriting is going towards, is, like, very AI heavy. And what we're
Mhm.
doing, like, Jeremy, the similarity with our offers is that we're kinda doing the opposite of that, in that we're showing these people how simple it can be to put out content that authentically represents them and is their voice and is their way of explaining things. We're just pulling those stories and extracting those pieces of value out of them, and then we're turning that into content for them. So it's like it kinda goes against what a lot of ghostwriting offers that I see out there today are, and I think the more people who get into online business, you're gonna get more people that wanna just do it the easy way and copy what other people are doing. So I think as more and more content becomes AI heavy, we're gonna like, offers like this will stand out from that, and people will value them more. As, as our feeds get full of AI content, people will gravitate towards what feels real.
I think it's also a lot harder when you're, like, by yourself and, like, you turn on the camera and you try to, like, remember the story beats or whatever. Like, sometimes, like, I'll, like, just remember the story beats of something, and it's, like, a lot of working memory, and, like, a lot of the time when you're got the camera on, like, your cortisol hits, and then your working memory goes away, so then you're basically, like, dumb at that moment. So having someone, like, that already knows the game, that has way more success in content, and then kind of them you're kind of picking what to them to say and, like, helping them form what to go after, I think is also helpful. And then also the being able to systemize, like, 3 videos in an hour, like, they're probably gonna spend hours if they're gonna do it themselves, and it's gonna be super frustrating and annoying. And then the captions could be a pain in the ass too, like, where you're sitting there having to go read the captions, make sure that all the spelling's correct and all that's going on. So I just think that people just don't wanna deal with any of that because, like, the captions could be a 2-hour time suck in itself just for a couple videos if the person doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah. I also think that like ghostwriting, I think the reason why it's also become a more difficult offer to deliver as well is that now the thing that seems to be kind of expected with it, that I don't know if people actually should move in this direction, really honestly, is that it includes other things like commenting for the client, for example, which really that's not an easy thing to deliver on for a client because how do you find somebody that you can outsource this to at a low enough, like at a cost where it's like they're still going to deliver quality comments that aren't just AI written. And I kind of think that if you are going to be doing ghostwriting, it's like things like commenting for the client. It's either like the client has the time to do it or they don't. But I really don't think that that's something that people should be offering it. And like, unless it's like, what are we going to do? We're going to put somebody in your LinkedIn account that has the ability to comment in your voice, isn't intelligent enough to do that and not ruin your reputation in the process. Okay, so we're gonna have to pay this person like a pretty substantial amount of money to do that, like on a monthly basis, right? So it's like it's just not worth doing it unless you are going to spend more money to do it. And it's like I'd rather the client leaves like one comment per day than like 50 AI slop comments per day.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's where like getting on the same page with your client of like what they really want to get out of content is really important because this was something specifically that my partner and I talked about when we were kind of brainstorming like, okay, where do we want to draw the lines on this offer? Like, what do we for sure not want to do? And at first, it like initially, we didn't think that we were going to post for people. We thought, like, okay, we'll interview you, we'll do all the beforehand research, we'll kind of look at all your stuff through the lens of a customer, come up with questions that we think we would ask as a potential customer. But then we do like an SEO angle too, and we find like, what are people searching around this industry? So we try to make sure that the person gets as much value and like thought provokingness as possible out of just that part. And then we'd cut that up into posts. We'd have them all ready to post and then basically give it to the client. And at first, for a second, like that did make sense. But then the more we thought about it, the more I was like, no, I think we need to post for them. I think we need to handle that part. But we were instinctively thinking that, well, if we post for them, now we're getting into like social media management. But we kind of figured like that's where we draw the line is like we want to control the posting of this content because it can be done pretty seamlessly with auto schedulers and stuff, but we need to make sure that in order for our whole cycle to work, for us to go from like research, interview, clips, posted, analyze what worked, and then have that feedback into the next interview, we need to control all those steps. And
Mhm.
if we don't control the posting, then we're gonna have way higher client churn because you're gonna have clients that you do all this work, you send them all the shit, and they don't take time to post. And then what's the likelihood that that person's gonna want to do it again? So
Yes.
we kind of drew that line though. We were like, we want to control the posting to make sure that we get the content out and we can analyze what worked, but we're not managing your DMs. We're not doing comments for you. If there's somebody like it can be kind of a case by case basis. If there's somebody that really makes sense for, I mean, we could help them figure that out. That could be like a potential upsell, but it's so much more work than people think. And I agree with what you said, Mike. If we're basically handling all this content for you, but you wanna be the one connecting with those clients that are reaching out to you and, like, nurturing people who are leads, I think getting on your social and doing 1 comment a day or just responding to the people who DM you, like, the people that I've spoken to recently want to do that part. They're like, "No, I want to look at the DMs. I want to respond to the people who respond to the comment or the content." So I think that's kind of where we drew the line. It's not full social media management, but we do want to have control over making sure the content actually sees the light of day.
Does that mean that you're writing the copy for, like, if it's like a video or a short, I'm assuming you're writing the copy then and creating the title, so it's all included in that, I'm assuming?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, even for myself now on LinkedIn, I swear to God, average day, I comment like one time. And it's not even a conscious thing now, but I don't have the time right now to like sit there and like actually I used to do this, especially when I was in like more the beginner growth phase. is actually sit down and like leave 10 comments or like 20 comments, right? And like it does boost your visibility and all that, right? But I'm lucky if I comment like 1 or 2 times, maybe 3 times per day. But every time I comment, it's something that actually came from me that I put a second of thought into. And even if it's just something like it could be a funny comment, it could be a genuine comment, it could be something where I'm actually dropping some actual value, like in response to something that somebody said. But I'm never gonna personally outsource commenting. Like it has to be me. I want people on the other side to feel, oh yeah, that's actually Mike leaving that comment. That's just way more powerful. And yeah, so yeah, like with ghostwriting, I'm not gonna do. Uh, we used to offer that as a service, is offering commenting for clients. It was a mess. It was honestly a mess, and it's like it was part of the service because I also had like insane um an insane guarantee of 1,000 followers per month, right? And in order to hit that, it's like you want to be sending connection requests. Automating connection requests is pretty easy to do, to be honest. And as long as like you and the client know who their ICP is that you're going for, that's easy. That's not something where it's like inauthentic to like segment a list of people and then send out connections, right? But the commenting and all that, like it became such a mess because like what would end up happening is the VA who we had doing the commenting would end up commenting on like a political post or something like this, and then I get a message about it later, and it's like, why did the VA comment on this post about like Trump or something? It's like
Yeah. I think
there's some. It's hard to control that.
yeah, LinkedIn is the one platform where I totally get why that was part of your offer, because in order for you to have a guarantee around growth, commenting and engaging and sending connection requests is what allows you to get that result for people in addition to posting. So I think if somebody said like, I specifically want to grow on my LinkedIn, that's my biggest goal here. I mean, number one, I'd probably just refer them to somebody else like you, Mike. But there are rare cases where having commenting included in the offer could make sense depending on what their goals are. But I yeah, I think I would probably just tell that person like, yeah, I'm probably not the service provider for you because that's not what I focus our energy on. That's not aligned with the way that we do content. And honestly, that's like the biggest thing that, or one of the biggest things that made me like kind of leave LinkedIn. I still
Mm.
post there. I still like, I post a lot of these clips from our calls with you guys there. I still have relationships with some people in the DMs there. But I used to spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, like when I first came into Dakota's program and I was like commenting for like an hour a day kind of thing. And I hated it. I truly hated it because so many people caught on to that, like, oh, engaging on LinkedIn is like a really big thing. People just started gamifying it and using AI to write the comments. And it just felt like we're playing this like meaningless game where like I'm commenting on a post, not because I genuinely love the post necessarily, but because I'm trying to get a certain amount of comments out. And you can feel that other people are doing that too. And then there's people leaving AI comments that either don't make any sense or just aren't saying anything at all. Or my favorite was when people would write an AI comment that literally just says exactly what the post says, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I said. Like, thanks for just copy and pasting my words and putting in the comment. It just felt stupid. I was like, this is a waste of my time. I don't want to build a business that relies on me playing these weird comment games. Like I hate this. So that was like one of the biggest reasons why I stopped putting as much time into LinkedIn.
What's your guys' thought on some of these Substack offers, like Taylor's Substack offer? It sounds like he's going after people on LinkedIn and saying, hey, you don't have an email list. Let me build yours on Substack and I'll write your newsletter. I thought that was pretty smart, like because it's a little bit of a gap in the market. What's your guys' thoughts on that? It seems like he's pivoting more towards that direction.
Yeah, I think that yeah, that's very smart, you know? And there'd probably be a lot of examples of people on LinkedIn, like even some pretty serious business owners who don't have a don't have an email list, right? and or don't have a Substack email list, because even that has a bit of an angle too, because Substack is also a distribution platform, right? So it's like if their email list isn't growing fast enough, it's kind of like we could probably boost that up for you as well by posting Substack notes, right? And if they aren't consistent with their LinkedIn content, then I mean, there's a good chance that they don't have an email list. Maybe they need help with both. So yeah, probably is a big opportunity there. I think
Yeah,
they
it's
just have like
interesting.
one Substack client, though, eh?
Yeah, I
They
think so. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I
Do
think
you
they
know,
have
guys?
2 now. I
Okay.
interviewed Taylin and all this last week about their Substack offer, so that'll come out soon. Um, but yeah, I got them to kind of explain, like, why Substack specifically, and I've noticed this with a bunch of creators on Substack that a lot of them came from LinkedIn, and then they kind of, like, as they transitioned, they would kind of almost, like, use LinkedIn and Substack as, like, a flywheel for each other, so they'd, like, repurpose a lot of content or, like, kind of drive people from LinkedIn to Substack. Um, but I thought the way that Taylin explained it, I thought was really good and made a lot of sense around like why are they focusing on Substack because it is like a newer platform, so it still is very much up and coming, but it's I think the only platform out there where writing a newsletter can actually get you more newsletter subscribers because it gets put out into this ecosystem. You can write notes around it. People can like discover your newsletter on the Substack platform and then subscribe to it. So it's like you are writing a newsletter and you're sending it to your subscribers directly, but you're also putting it out there on the whole Substack platform and other people can engage with it and then be like, "Oh, I really like this newsletter. I'm going to subscribe to it." So it makes sense because it's easier to kind of like get it out there, and then the notes on top of that, you can kind of like continually drive people back to your newsletter. So it seems like they've kind of figured out their system of like building somebody's Substack newsletter, using notes to kind of help grow that newsletter, sending people from the newsletter to some kind of like low ticket product and then nurturing people from that low ticket product to the higher ticket option.
How are
So
you guys looking at the difference
cool.
between like notes and like a LinkedIn post? Is it like a note more like a tweet in your mind, or I know the newsletters are more longer form, but are they different on LinkedIn, or is it just repurposed content from LinkedIn to Substack for you guys?
So I used to write like much longer LinkedIn posts. Man, when I look back at my stuff, man, I used to do like long LinkedIn posts, and that worked well for me for like a really long time. I actually used to find that like a lot of the time, the longer the better, right? Because like retention and this, it could end up driving the post out there. I think I've noticed a bit of a reversal on LinkedIn where it's like short form content actually seems to work very well on LinkedIn. Um, but like, I feel like something I thought about just a minute ago when you were talking there was like, if you just write for Substack first and, approach notes as kind of like a short to medium form piece of content and, newsletters obviously as like a long form piece of content and then repurpose to LinkedIn. I've found that has worked very well for me because also I'm more likely to kind of say something maybe just a little bit like less filtered on Substack too. So it has just that tiny bit more edge, right? And because of that, it kind of takes LinkedIn by surprise a little bit. It's like, oh, we're not used to somebody saying it quite like that, right? So, but I've kind of approached a lot of notes like the way you'd write a tweet, right? And I've been doing a lot of short form on LinkedIn, just repurposing over Substack notes because, man, there's only so much time in the day. I'm writing this fiction novel and I'm posting on Substack and LinkedIn and not really missing a day on either platform like Substack or LinkedIn. But there's been some days where I've been close to missing a post on one of those platforms. So,
Yeah, again, I mean this might show how like I really not systemizing a lot of things, but like I guess I kind of am here because I basically what I do for my content right now is I take the clips from the people I interview, I write posts around those, and I put those out on our Instagram, our YouTube, LinkedIn, and I think that's it. Yeah. Oh, and our Facebook page. Um, so everything, like all those clips and stuff get pre-scheduled. The clips from these calls that we do when there's good clips that come from it, the clips from the interviews, that's all pre-scheduled. Substack, you don't have the option of auto scheduling yet, at least not that I've discovered. So I kind of treat Substack a little bit differently. Like this is where my newsletter comes from, but like when I write notes and stuff, it's almost always just like on the fly. It's like something I thought of, something I'm dealing with right now, something that just happened, something that like I'm working through and like pondering out loud in my mind, which funny enough sometimes end up being my most engaged with notes. But I kind of do what Mike said a lot of times. Like if something works really well on Substack, I'm like, oh, sweet, there's a LinkedIn post. Um, but I kind of treat Substack differently, I guess, because it doesn't have the auto scheduler or like pre-scheduling options. If it does, I don't know. I haven't found that like when I've posted clips on Substack, I haven't found they've performed that well. So I don't know if I would start hitting Substack with like my interview clips. It
I
could be
wonder.
worth trying, but
I wonder if people get offended by like video on Substack. It seems like there's a little bit of that, maybe to me, that I've picked up on. I don't know. I saw someone in like a post saying Substack's not a video platform or something like that. You know how like everyone loves to police like LinkedIn or Substack or whatever platform into like whatever it is that they want it to be.
There probably are some purists who want to keep it like, text only and that kind of thing. I almost understand where they're coming from with that. But oh man, what did I think about there? Oh, want to ask you guys, what do you think about batching content? Because that's like, people always talk about batching content, like they sit down on a Sunday and they write all their posts for the week and that. And I'll tell you that I am not a batcher. Um, I am for obviously for clients because there's no way that you can write content for clients on the fly. I mean, there's a whole approval process. It has to be, like perfect in their voice, just the way they like it before it hits the timeline and all this, right? But for myself, I like never like sit down and batch content. I might like keep ideas, right? Like a list of ideas that I can like if I need an idea, maybe refer to. But I don't like sitting down for like 2 hours or something and just batching posts for the week because I feel like it's too monotonous. It's too they tend to bleed over and just become like the same ideas as opposed to when you just like have epiphanies throughout the week and it's things you're actually dealing with or a conversation you had. So I'm like the on the fly guy.
yeah, I've actually started doing more batching since like having all these interview clips because a lot of what I'm doing and what we're doing with our content right now is just like testing. So it's like testing using different AI tools to get the best clips and then testing, putting them out there and seeing like which ones perform on which platform. So sometimes I'm posting like 2 to 3 clips a day. At least I was like the last couple weeks. And so with that, I've actually found it easier to kind of systemize it and batch because like for example, if I finish an interview with somebody and my partner finishes cutting all the clips and I go into that Google Drive and let's say I watch them and there's like 8 clips and I'm like, these are all awesome. I like all of these. Then I find it really easy to batch that because it's just a matter of me scheduling that clip and writing like, what's the point of this clip? Like, what's the main point this clip's trying to make? And I could add something like, why did I want to post this? Like, why is this important? Who's this for? Why is it worth listening to? So I keep it like pretty short, but I always try to bring it back to like, why is this worth posting? And that's one thing I've started really like chiseling down my captions. Like you said, Mike, like I used to write really long captions and I think I really like overthought captions for a long time. And I found that it can be that simple, like just reiterating what is the point of this clip? Why is this worth posting? And I've like observed other people who make kind of podcast clips like Diary of a CEO. And a lot of times when they post clips, that is what they do. There's just like some kind of main takeaway that's like, what's the main takeaway, or what did this person say in this clip? So when I do it like that, I find it very easy to batch because I'm just going through the clips of an interview with somebody and just saying like, here's why this is cool, here's why this is worth posting. So sometimes if I did 2 interviews in a week, I've got like 20 clips I can schedule, and I find it easier to just schedule them all at once. But I think I agree with what you said though. I do kind of like to leave room for like spontaneous on the fly posts. And sometimes those end up performing the best. Um, but I think
Yeah,
it just kind of depends on your content system. And I can see how for some people you might not like batching because it does feel monotonous. I think the way that I've been doing it feels like it works though for me.
for you, I think it's different though, because it's video clips from interviews that you already did in the past, and you're picking out the gems, and then you're just like captioning those. And like, I feel like you actually have to do that approach.
Yeah.
But the key there is that you already have something that you're working from that was in the moment and done in an interview style, so people weren't like getting in their heads and stuff. But I'm talking about a writer sitting down and setting a timer for like 90 minutes or something and just like writing ideas. Well, like my thinking there is that your ideas are going to bleed into each other because you did that in one session versus like having epiphanies and things that triggered the ideas throughout the week. So they all are different and they're like from different angles and that kind of thing, right? So, but for
Yeah.
video, different.
When I write the LinkedIn posts, I definitely, or like my LinkedIn post from yesterday was from like an epiphany. I was like sitting there DMing people, and then Claude was pushing back and was like, "Don't email this person; it's a waste of time. Like they don't have the authority, they don't have a point of view. They're just parroting, like resharing other ideas, right? They're just reposting everything. So clearly they have like nothing, or they're not at the level yet where they have anything to say, or they're playing it safe, however you want to look at it. But
Hmm.
at some sort of thing, like when that happened, I was like, "Oh, this is like a good idea for a post," and then I just created the post on it based upon that specific moment. So I think a lot of my posts are like that. They're more like moments, like in time. The other post that I did earlier in the week on LinkedIn was about my friend losing his job right after moving to Salt Lake City. He was only working at this agency for 4 months, and then it was 9 months before that. So I kind of had this idea of like sovereignty and like not like wanting to ever be in that position. So it kind of struck an idea for that post. So I think that like for me, it's definitely that. And then a lot of the times too, if I'm like, I was thinking about spinning up a new YouTube channel because I started managing co-hosting this Airbnb, which is very similar to like content because I had to like, improve the profile, change the title, change all these pictures or whatever. But the crazy part is like you get like a 15% commission off of every booking. So every time someone spends like $1,000, you'll make 15% of that money, and it's consistent. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to try to get more of these, and like in a very high net worth area. And I was like, if I can get like 10 of these fucking things, I could probably make 10,000 a month just off that. So that'll support the regular other part of the business. So like I was just sitting there last night going, what kind of videos could I make as like a local to this area that are cool that shows other Airbnb property managers and owners that I know this specific area very well. And I know like enough about like copywriting and whatever to use that expertise to also make that sound better. So I was thinking about that too because I picked up that account and I was like, I like the fact that I don't have to. I'm obviously going to continue full throttle down the video offer, but I was like, if I can get a couple of these other ones too, that could be like a nice base layer. And I like it because it's already captured demand. It's not creating demand. Like it's kind of what we do. We're like people are going to rent these things no matter what. So it's just a matter of like, all right, they need some help fucking managing the thing, setting up automated workflows for like the check-in, the checkout, all that shit. And it didn't take me that long to do it. And it's already starting to make money. So I was thinking
Nice.
about that yesterday. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, going back to what you said, Mike, I've definitely heard of people who will like when they're writing posts for clients or themselves, I think you kind of like you said, you kind of have to do it for clients, but I've heard of people kind of having like a daily framework almost. So they're like, on Sundays, I always post about something I learned last week, and on Mondays, I always post about insert whatever topic. So they kind of give themselves a framework so that they can sit down and write content that doesn't bleed into each other because they've given themselves like a predetermined kind of topic for that day. I think I tried that for like a week and then never did it again. So I just feel like it just didn't work for me, but I can see how that would work for people that want to batch and kind of like systemize it as much as possible. Um, Something that came to mind, a little bit of a different direction here, but you talked a couple times, Jeremy, about like kind of using Claude to help you decide if somebody's worth pursuing. And I'm not gonna lie, the thing that came to my mind both times was like, is this where we're like getting into like asking AI to do like our critical thinking for us? Because I honestly wonder if Claude's gonna look at certain metrics or certain things and be like, no, this person's not worth reaching out to. But there's probably gonna be some scenarios where you might have a feeling in your gut that you're like, I disagree. I see
Yeah.
potential for this reason. And
Yeah,
so if you I don't think you'll do this because I think you are an intelligent person and a critical
sure.
thinker, but I could see people getting into this where they're like, "Yeah, I use Claude to just tell me if someone's worth reaching out to or not." But then you're losing that, like, critical thinking component, and you might end up missing out on people who there was potential with just because Claude based it on a couple metrics and was like, "No." Because you said one guy was just, like, resharing stuff.
Yeah,
So
I
Claude
think
was like,
I think the reason behind something like that though is like you have to critically think your way into who you want to work with to begin with.
Mhm,
So for me, it makes more sense to like my whole method is my entry point is people that are already creating content because I don't want to have to sell them on creating content. So that's something that I thought about in advance. And then the other thing is on top of that, it's like, all right, do they have a point of view? Because if they're going to be on video, like you're not going to want them just parroting like company updates and like bullshit. So like at the end of the day, that is critical thinking because you're front loading all the stuff that is a problem ahead of time and thinking about it in advance. So
mhm,
what you're doing is you're essentially solving and you're using the AI to help you solve like, all right, like I'm an emotional person. I might miss some of these things. It's gonna say, no, dude, like it's like being in a relationship, right? It'd be like, all right, I went on the first date with this girl and it went like I ignore like 8 red flags and like, I'm just there because I'm attracted to her or whatever. And
Hey,
then
yeah.
so then I think to some sort of degree, it's like I'm not that logical, right? To me, it's like building these systems in advance that are like almost like guard like gates, but you could override it. It's not like if there's someone that like for whatever reason they're like, all right, like I don't agree with you here. Um, I'll pitch it anyway. So that's you could definitely do that. But I think to me, it's like you do have to spend a bit of time actually like analyzing ahead. I think before you create any sort of rules around any of these things.
On the last call we did, I talked about how like being disagreeable is like the only way to use AI, right? You got to push back against it. So like interestingly, you just talked about how like this one guy on LinkedIn was just sharing other people's content or like curating content or just reposting or whatever it might be, right? And Claude might tell you, "Oh no, don't reach out to this guy. He's just parroting other people's stuff, this and that." But this is where like the nuance exists is sometimes those guys who all they're doing is just sharing other people's stuff are the best ghostwriting clients and maybe the best video clients because they might want to put out their own unique message and story, but maybe they just don't have the time. And the reason why they're hitting that share button is because they just don't have the time. Right. So
Yeah.
everything they're doing is just curation. He shares some guy's post and he just writes like a one sentence caption on it, not because he might wish he could do more, but he just doesn't have the time. So he writes the one sentence caption and shares that other guy's post. So like and this is the thing, and this is like the short fallings of AI is it like it doesn't understand nuance. It sometimes doesn't take the thought process far enough. And I mean, like, thank God. Like, thank God that it has like short fallings at this point, because otherwise, we would all be out of a job.
I think on that particular case, you could help that person. It's just going to be more work, probably. The person that already has a point of view, it's going to be easier for you to like make content that pops because they already uniquely have something to say. right? So they're not on video. So I think at the end of the day, it could be a better client, and they could not
Maybe.
churn because like. So I think it's just all relative to like what what you're trying to accomplish. But I agree with you. I think you could still work with them though.
Yeah,
Yeah, like the
I
guy
had the
might have
same
an
thought as
amazing
Mike.
story, but he's just
Yeah.
not telling it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
basically.
That's what I thought as well. I was like, well, if he's constantly sharing other people's stuff, that tells me he's active on social media and he has an interest in sharing good content. He's just not taking the time to make it. So I totally see what you're saying. Like you still have to have that, critical thinking for yourself and kind of go with your gut sometimes. But what you said there, Mike, about, you know, being disagreeable with your AIs. Actually, I got a newsletter from Tom Bilyeu last week, I think, where he basically said, like, I compared 4 different AIs over a year or something like that, and this is my biggest takeaway from each one. So he talked about ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, and Claude. And the biggest takeaway from ChatGPT was that over time, as you use it more, it actually becomes more agreeable. And that's a lot of people who are writers or like trying to use it for creative or critical thinking. That becomes their biggest beef with it is like, I don't want you to just tell me something's awesome if it's not. I want you to push back. But the way that bot works is to be more agreeable over time for whatever reason. So that was his kind of biggest takeaway from that one. With Gemini, he said the biggest takeaway was that it was the worst one for fabricating information. And it wasn't as like with ChatGPT will fabricate information sometimes. And like there's been times where I put in a transcript and I ask it to help me pick out certain moments and it will make up a quote and say that the person said that. And I'll ask it like, where is that quote from? I don't think that's a direct quote. And it's like, oh, you're right. It's not. I made it up. So ChatGPT will make up shit, but then it'll call itself on making up shit. Whereas Gemini, at least Tom Bilyeu said, it is the worst one for fabricating information, and it will pass it off like it's Bible. Like it won't admit to its fabrication as quickly, which can get really dangerous for people that don't make a habit of double checking their work. Um, Grok, I can't remember what his biggest takeaway from Grok was, but then his favorite was Claude because he said it's the most disagreeable. It's the best one for
Yeah.
like challenging your thinking. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that I feel like just the universe is just pushing me to fucking learn Claude.
Incredible thing about ChatGPT is it will like make some shit up, and then when you call it out on that, it won't even it won't even apologize. It's just the most unapologetic. It's like, oh, you're right for questioning that. Yeah, actually, I didn't actually read that PDF. I was just going off of like what I think might exist in that document based on what you told me like prior. It's like, you want to actually do what I'm telling you to do this time?
Put in its place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always asking what the AI needs for me to make it better too, or like poke holes in it. I always like to do that too if I have the time. Like, tell me like what I'm missing, or tell me it sucks. Where it doesn't suck? Is there any logic gaps missing? So I think that kind of helps me to flag if something's like a little off too. But
Mm.
I think a lot of people just probably like grab the output and are like, "Oh, cool, it's good, ship it." But
Dangerous territory.
yes, very dangerous.
I did a search with ChatGPT recently where it actually was super important information in regards to like one of my flights. And I was asking it like something like logistical about a certain airline. And it straight up lied to me and kind of led to a situation that I thought was going to be kind of problematic. So, but it will say things with like full confidence, right? So, yeah, this like discernment and pushing back against it is the key.
Yeah. Gotta keep that critical thinking for yourself. Don't
Mm.
outsource your thinking.
Yeah, definitely do not do that. Do you guys use AI a lot just to like process thoughts though, and just like ask you questions about the way you're thinking, and like I don't know if like your thinking is off, or I do a lot of that soundboarding my own like things that I'm going through. Just almost, I don't want to say as a therapist, but just something to like talk to.
Yeah, I've been using it for the writing of my fiction novel, because there's like I'm in my novel, I'm dealing with things like cartel like structure and like gang and stuff like this, right? So I'm like testing certain like logic of the world that I'm like writing about here. It's like, would a person in this position um actually like say this to the person, or would they have one of their like the people below them communicate this message? I'm testing different like world logic like that. And I actually mostly use ChatGPT for that. And it seems to be quite good at that. Like as long as you're asking it about something where it can pull plenty of information from online, right? So yeah.
Yeah. I use ChatGPT for, I would say, like, mostly that, like, bouncing ideas or, like, trying to help me kinda carve out what I'm trying to say. Like, a lot of my newsletters start out as just, like, brain dumps. I'm like, "Here's what I'm thinking about writing the newsletter about this week. Here's, like, all the thoughts I have around it." And I kinda get it to, like, ask me questions and just have a thought partner to go back and forth with. I almost always say, like, "Do not write it for me. I want to write it." Because I find when I did that in the past, when I let AI even write a draft of it, I found it often, like, made the whole writing process feel more complicated because now I'm, like, editing the AI's work and then often getting frustrated because 'cause I'm like, "This doesn't even sound like me anymore. I would never say it like this." So I'm always telling it, like, "Don't write it for me, but this is what I'm thinking. This is the direction I think I want it to go. These are all my thoughts around it." And sometimes I'll ask it to, like, "Can you give me, like, a structure for how this article could go? Like, could you help me organize all of these thoughts I have into something that could flow and would make sense, transitioning one section to another?" So I think that's, like, the main thing I use it for is bouncing ideas and kinda having, like, a thought partner. Because otherwise I would drive my husband crazy being like, "I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking it could go like this." Like, he can't handle that shit. He can't handle the speed at which my crazy ass brain works, so AI is really great for that because ChatGPT will never tell me to shut the fuck up and calm down, you know?
All right, first of all, shut the fuck up, calm down. No, yeah, that's actually what it's really good at is like collecting and organizing ideas. So if you do riff on something, it might then be able to go and like pull out all the gems, the things that are really actually important and like vital there, while then being able to scrap the stuff that's not as important. So it's good at that. Like it's good at those sort of like organizational assistant type roles or tasks.
Yeah,
But yeah, it fails with the creativity and the wording and like and the human elements.
yeah.
There's
That's a good way
sometimes
to
like
put it. It's a good assistant.
I was
Mhm.
listening to Flight Facilities, this band, and there was a song by this guy named Steve, and the lyrics just seemed like he got like knocked down and like built himself back up or whatever, and it had like this very like heartfelt vibe to it. So I just like screenshotted the lyrics and put it in AI and asked like what it was about, and like I often get inspired like by times like that, just listening to a song, and I'll just like get inspired from like what were they talking about there, and like how can I make a version of that myself or whatever. So I think that part of it's kind of fun because I don't know. There was a site back in the day called like Song Meanings where people would try to interpret what like a song meant by the lyrics. So it's just nice to get like another. I don't know. I know it's a bot, but it's just nice to see its perspective on something and like whether or not it's like close to the way I interpreted it.
Yeah,
It can do that kind of stuff too. Actually, interesting that you point that out. Like, yeah, like send it something like that where it can try and draw some meaning or something, and you could even say like, how could I connect the lyrics to this like Led Zeppelin song back to my ghostwriting service? And I guarantee it might be able to find a pattern of like, oh well, you could somehow relate Stairway to Heaven to your ghostwriting service by doing this.
yeah. I was gonna say I have to hop off in a minute here, guys, but I that's what I thought of too, Mike, is that that's another thing I find I use ChatGPT for. You could probably use whatever AI you use, but for just like rephrasing things or like helping you connect dots where you're not seeing the connection. But like one stupid ass thing that I started using ChatGPT for that I honestly think everybody should do is like if you get any kind of like long or wordy agreement, whether it's from like a bank or whatever, I will put the whole agreement into ChatGPT and be like, can you, because often it's full of like legal jargon and you're like,
Mm.
I think I understand exactly what this means, but a lot of times contracts are just fucking awful to read. And you're like, I feel like you're trying to confuse me with this contract by
They are.
making it so crazy. But so I'll put the whole thing in ChatGPT and be like, can you translate this into sixth grade reading level for me? And then point out the parts where I should really give it a second look or that might be of a disadvantage to me. I think everybody should do that. Like next time your bank gives you an agreement to sign or you're like we just hired a contractor and he sent us an agreement and I did that. He's like, "Hey, can you translate this to sixth grade reading level and then point out things that like I should ask follow-up questions about or that like might not be in my best interest?" Because I think a lot of times people just sign shit and they don't know what they're signing, and that's another thing. It's good at like rephrasing things or kind of what you said, Mike, like helping you connect dots. Like, how can I connect this thing to what I'm trying to say over here? It's a good like critical thinking partner in that way sometimes.
Yeah. No, that's an actual good use for AI. Get it to read your long agreements. Yeah.
Recommend.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'll let you guys jam. I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
All right.
Same
Sweet.
time.
See ya. Take care, guys.
Bye,
All
guys.
right, bye, guys.